Attention, all those listening. This is Dan, the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark, the Resident Jedi, and welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day.
Hello there. Today is the day where we apparently have to talk about presidents. Conveniently, we get to talk about Harrison Ford as another president because we watched Captain America Brave New World.
This is a first for the podcast where we are releasing the weekend after the release of the movie. So look at us. We are almost 3 years in, and we're already staying current to movies. We're watching this movie, or we did watch this movie. We watched it yesterday. It's opening weekend. We'll be releasing this on President's Day. So happy President's Day and mattress sales to all those people out there. Let's talk about our origin with not Captain America Steve Rogers, but Captain America, Sam Wilson. Mark, give us your thoughts.
Well, I think that we both have a deep love for the Shield. One of my favorite comics back in the day. And as the evolution of Captain America, we have a kind of a soft spot for those movies. They show up in our rankings high from an MCU perspective, and we even enjoyed the show Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Sam was a great addition to this franchise. Started on the left and is now in the front. I think that the journey of the character has been solid. They've brought him from Robin to Batman. DC's never been able to pull this off with a Nightwing, but I feel like Marvel has done a good job in Sam Wilson to the front. I think Mackie constantly impresses, but there's some things about the Sam Wilson Cap that Martha me, but they have nothing to do with the actor or a lot of the writing. I think that this movie continues on from the emotional journey that we got from Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and I think it gives us like a more realistic look at how he would cap along. But that's just me, and that was straight up no cap. But what about you?
I've always liked Anthony Mackie as an actor. I first was introduced to him in The Hurt Locker, which is an amazing freaking movie. Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner is also in that movie. He plays the lead character, but such a good freaking movie, and really great performance by Anthony Mackie. Going into like the Adjustment Bureau, obviously the Avengers stuff. So I've always been a fan of him as an actor. Him in Pain and Gain was also another great performance, just kind of like these roided out weirdos. But when it came to Captain America, Steve Rogers was always my Captain America. That was one of my favorite first comic book ventures, was into the Captain America comic book series. When I had heard and the storylines came out that Sam Wilson in the MC or Marvel Comics was Captain America, I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. But also at the same time, like, oh man, I really like Steve Rogers. So I've always been a Steve Rogers fan, but this was one of the times where I was hoping that he, meaning Anthony Mackie, would get a fair shake at playing Captain America, because you can't have Evans forever. Unlike Hugh Jackman, I don't know if he's going to be doing this till he's 90. I think he's just a little bit more of a indie type of scene spirit for movies and everything. But Anthony Mackie has the acting chops, he has the experience, and I've liked him in the previous iterations of everything, both from being Falcon and as Captain America is introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I was ready for it. My expectations going in, I was a little bit skeptical, and you and I had talked about it on the podcast before, because if we believe the rumors, there were reshoots all the way up until a month and a half ago. So that was kind of rolling the dice, and I was just like, uh-oh, red flag number 47 for this movie, because there were extensive reshoots, the amount of time all the reshoots it took, and the last-minute editing and everything. It was worrisome, to be honest. So that's kind of what I was going into this for. What about your expectations?
Let's pause on those reshoots, because I as you know, and as anybody that's listened know, so maybe not many people would know, I've been trying to live a spoiler-free life. I've been trying to be present in the movies, because more recently, I think we've seen the best arc we're going to see. So every time I've gone to see a new one, I've come out like, well, it was an Endgame. So I've been trying to stay just present in what they bring to the table and not try and get too involved in the hype because it always seems to disappoint. I even texted you before this, right? Because I saw this movie on Saturday night. It came out on Thursday. I think I texted you Thursday or Friday. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm feeling negative. I'm seeing a lot of negativity here. I don't want this to ruin my because I didn't even watch the trailers. Like I
And
tried to
what
stay
was my text
away.
back? What was my text back to
I
you
don't know.
though?
Let me look. I'll tell you, you're friendly. Stay vigilant, which is
Yes.
such an odd wording, but I loved it. Um, and it's funny because going into this movie, I tried to go in completely cold. I knew Harrison Ford was in it, right? You like there's certain things you can't get away from. You knew there was going to be a Red Hulk situation, like, but I didn't. I wanted the Easter eggs to be Easter eggs and not be like I'm waiting for this to happen. For example, when I saw The Force Awakens, I went full spoiler into it. I know this was like a decade ago, so but I went full spoiler into it. I knew Harrison Ford was gonna die. I knew when, and I'm just like, it just wasn't as fun. So that amongst the many other terrible Marvel movies that we've seen, Eternals, which was a great surprise in this. I'm like, oh fuck, it connects to the Eternals. This can't be good. So going in, I didn't have these expectations of anything. I was just like, please be a good Captain America movie. Please be a good Captain America movie. But I remember you talking about the reshoots and while I'm watching the movie, and I saw it IMAX, which when you get into like editing and sound and stuff, IMAX tends to show the seams a lot more than if you see it like not super loud on a million speakers. And not that IMAX is that much bigger. Like this is a side conversation. Do you feel like IMAX from a screen perspective is that much different than like your standard laser screen nowadays?
I don't think it is. I know from the IMAX experience, like, yes, it's a huge ass screen and you could see more of the frame and everything.
Hmm.
However, I don't know if it necessarily adds 100% of the time to all the movies that are shown in IMAX. You know, there's some that are shot in IMAX, and I did not watch this in IMAX. It was on standard screen, but I was in a D box seat where you have like the vibrations and it kind of teeters and totters throughout the movie.
Oh, you went
So
40X?
not 40X. It was the D box is slightly different, so you're not getting like water spat at you when
Oh,
you're.
dude, this would have been a 40X movie. We have to do that at some point, find a movie that aligns to 40X and review it and review 40X all in the same podcast.
So we could just talk about how wet we got
Oh my
during the movie.
God. It's so
at,
moist during this film.
at an hour 25, I was soaked.
It's right
I
in the
was
face.
just so
Um,
soaked in my seat,
I do
soaking wet.
IMAX for the sound. I think the sound is better, and the theater by me. I'm not an old man, but sometimes I feel like it. Their IMAX is like at 11. Um, I made my wife go to one, and she was like, "This is just too loud." I think she like put her AirPods in just
Oh, just
to
to shield it.
just to shield. I'm just like, no, this is how you're supposed to watch movies. I grew up in the play it loud era, so I like the idea of the IMAX, and I saw something about if you can see this in IMAX, see it in IMAX. So I did, and the seams in the editing and the reshoots and like just the ADR were there. I was like, oh, I can tell.
Can I ask you a question? The way that this movie was shot, like right off at the beginning, the Marvel Studios animation intro screen right there. I thought like, wow, we're really in for a different movie. They're totally going for like a Winter Soldier Captain America theme. Did it seem more grainy to you than other movies? Like just the way that they shot it?
I didn't notice a stark difference in the cinematography, though it wasn't a Russo brothers movie, which this is the first Captain America movie that's not Russo. So,
Well, besides Joe Johnson in the first Avenger, but yeah, it was definitely a lot different the way that they shot that. But I was just curious if you picked that up in IMAX because as I was going through this movie, they were like, uh, at least to my perception, they were shooting it maybe off of like 35 millimeter film or something like that, just to have like a little bit of that graininess edge to it. At least that's my takeaway from it, or maybe I just saw on a really shitty screen. I don't know, but
It,
some of the some of the things
I,
were like grainy, and then also some of it were doing like the TV made for TV shot type of scenes where it's like hazy backgrounds and just the focal point is clear.
there were a shitload of VXX and digital artists in the credits that I sat through, so I would expect that this would be a lot more polished. But normally, you're the
Look,
one that complains about sound and editing, and I like, oh, this is a hard thing to do. We got to be nice to people. But I was like, oh, I
yeah.
even like wrote a note down like, oh, that sound didn't match that well, guys.
You could
There's a
you
little
can
there's a little
notice.
bar on Final Cut. You could have fixed that.
Yeah, that the Bucky scene with Sam when he's in the hospital visiting Joaquin, I thought that that was like, oh wow, they changed something up there because this stuff isn't matching up right. And I was trying to like zoom in on with my like go gadget eyes, like, hey, what is he really trying to say here? And Sebastian Stan was saying exactly what he was saying, just it was slightly off. But you could tell that there was a few scenes where they're shooting it from the back that Sebastian Stan did a little bit of ADR, and who knows, maybe that's like one of the last reshoots that were done because it didn't seem like it fit. Like I think from a story perspective, it made sense for someone to come in and really solidify Sam as Captain America because he's still doubting himself as Captain America. And so I feel like that was like a last minute, like, yeah, we need someone else in here besides Harrison Ford. Can we see what Sebastian Stan's up to? Like, that's what it seemed like to me. It seemed like there were so many inconsistencies throughout the movie, but it was like, oh, we'll throw this in here to kind of do a little bit of damage control, or throw out like a very nice, easy line of dialogue that explains someone's absence or someone's appearance or something.
See, I dug it. So um I loved the Bucky cameo. I was like, oh, it's Bucky.
Oh
And
yeah, I mean, we all did. We knew that we were
but
going to love that.
I also loved that it wasn't just Bucky showing up to fight.
It should have
Like,
been. It should have been. That's the thing that doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, so Barnes is a politician now. This doesn't make sense. He killed a lot of people and he's just going on this campaign trail now. And so he's not
hear
a
me out.
congressman.
Hear me out. The congressman thing's weird. I thought the same thing. But I love that he showed up and did what Steve would have done.
Yeah, no, I
Patted
agree
him
with
on the
that. I
back.
agree.
I loved that. And I was like, oh, okay, so we're gonna get him in the action scenes and stuff. And then when you left, I was like, oh, good. We're not gonna
Wait,
get him in the action scenes.
Mark, why did he leave again?
Because he had to get on a flight somewhere.
To do like campaigning as a
Yeah.
as a congressman? Like what?
The,
Where?
the Yeah, so the weird part about that is, as I actually thought about it, I'm like, well, if the president was elected and this was after the first 100 days, then we're a year and a half out from midterms for Congress. So why is he nearly going to be elected a year and a half before the actual election would happen?
I
Okay.
don't and for everyone who's listening and watching, I heard Congressman Barnes, right? That was something that I had heard. I don't know what degree that is in politics. You know what I mean? Like you could be
You
a
could be Senate
congressman
or
and
House, either way.
yeah. So that's where it just seems like a wait, hold, pump the brakes. Hold on. You're telling me that Bucky Barnes is going out there campaigning to be a politician? Is that really what his aspirations were after Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I don't know, man. I don't know. I think he was more down on still getting some forgiveness and crushing some tail at the sushi joint.
Yeah, it's an
Yellowtail,
honor. I'm
Yellowtail,
a
not
Yellowtail.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm assuming that they resolve this in Thunderbolts. I'm
Which by the way,
assuming.
that trailer,
The
I'm
trailer was dope.
assuming yeah, you
Trailer
didn't
was
like
dope.
close your eyes at the beginning of the trailers,
No,
right? Like you watched.
I'll watch the trailers in the theater. Yeah, no, I saw it was like a Marvel cavalcade of it was like the old days where they're like banger, 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 possibly, or disappointment, disappointment, disappointment. We don't know. We don't know. Ralph Macchio even showed up in the trailers for me this week. It was great. So I'm hoping that they resolve the Bucky thing again. I just love that that Bucky did what Steve would have done. If we break down the Bucky thing, we can poke holes in it all day, or we can just love that his people showed up for him.
I'm not trying to be negative about it, but you were just talking about how like you noticed a little bit of those seams that
Mhm.
were not quite right in IMAX, and that just happened to be the scene that kind of stuck out to me because we're granted they probably were doing something to that effect, but there was definitely like a few scenes that were removed that they had shots because I remember them being at a funeral in they were shooting a funeral scene for this movie. And people were thinking like, oh, is this Steve Rogers' funeral? Is it someone else's? I was trying to just like kind of piece things together where like in my head, okay, I know there's extensive reshoots. So I'm like looking for them specifically. And a few of them came from who was supposed to be Sabra, the Mossad superhero, Israeli superhero that was supposed to be, but she ended up getting her character reworked. Uh, Shira Haas as Root Bat So that was an interesting character. My wife hated that character, but I was like, oh, cool. She's an ex-widow. That's kind of sweet. I was actually okay with that kind of change up for the character and everything because I was like, okay, yeah, I could see why some people might, get their panties in a bunch because her being an Israeli Mossad, you know, uh, whatever you want to say,
Yeah,
that's one of the things where I was like, oh God, can't we just have like people that kick ass? Whether they're good or bad, it's indifferent. It doesn't matter where they're from. Let's just have good ass characters or bad ass characters in a movie.
I like the fact that she was ex-widow. It was good. It was like throwing Black Widow in, but not really. It just fits. It's a cool third wheel there, and I thought that she held her own in a lot of the scenes. Like considering that it was an actress that was of a smaller stature than everybody else, held her own in the scenes very well, brought across the authoritativeness, handled the action scenes well. Like all that worked for me.
You
But
notice though, they gave her an outfit that just looked eerily similar to Bucky's Winter Soldier.
yes,
Like that
yes, I
didn't make
did.
sense to me. Like why
None
is
of it made
costuming
like
is costuming that hard up for money where it's like, hey, can we just can we shave down Sebastian Stan's coat and we'll just put it on her? Like
shaved
that
down.
ugh.
Yeah, I don't know the why there, but maybe that was part of her other costume, and then they just had to change the colors in something else. You never know. But the costuming thing didn't bother me. I liked that most of the time she was in civilian clothes. It also showed like the idea that all of these people that were in the intelligence community, the underground intelligence community in the past, now are taking different roles in the government. It's very much like post Winter Soldier America. Some people go work here, some people go work there. I am sad we didn't see Sharon Carter.
Oh, the well, I think we're never gonna see her ever again because such the backlash of her being as the power broker. I think
Yeah.
that's the name, right? Just
Uh,
the worst twist, and now they just don't know what the fuck to do with it. I
uh,
actually thought when Sam said like, "Oh, I have an in with the president," I thought that was gonna be her. I thought they were gonna bring her back in, and she was gonna be part of some type of evil shakedown plan, and who knows? I actually was thinking about it from the funeral perspective, like, oh, maybe they just kill Sharon Carter like right off the bat because like, yep, we fucked up that storyline. We need to have clean ties with this. Or they kill her, but she's still the power broker in Madripoor. That's
yeah.
the only way I could see it.
I don't
But
know. Can you talk to me about his in with the president? Did I just not know who this was?
it was not like specifically explained, but the way that I was looking at it, it was the oh gosh, what's her name? Harrison
OSHA?
Ford's maybe. Oh. Was that the name? A Secret Service agent
Yeah.
with a history with Sam Wilson. Like so,
Yeah.
so
I'm
Captain
like,
America was banging
who are
a
you again?
security guard. It's
Who are
like,
you again?
yeah,
Like,
that's his in though, Mark. You should know this. Captain America has
I
ears and
mean,
eyes everywhere.
it's got something. I did go on like a Cap movie tear like a week or so ago, um, which was just an Evans love fest. Not, I did not watch or rewatch Falcon and the Winter Soldier for this. So I'm like, is
I
this
don't even
his
think he needs to
sister?
watch it.
Is this somebody that like he was shrimp boating with? Like, I don't even know who this person is. Please tell me why they're such good friends and she's giving up national security information to Captain America.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that that was his in unless there was that throwaway dialogue at the
Yeah,
beginning of like,
yeah,
I have an in with the president. If he
yeah,
gets out of line, she'll tell me. Like, huh?
yes.
Is that how
Meh.
Captain America is doing clandestine, sleeper cells in the president's office? Is that what's going on? Like it seems a little bit off, but
I mean, there's sleeper cells everywhere, apparently.
yeah, yeah. And that in itself. So that brings us to, would you say, the main antagonist of the entire thing? You know, the main
Light,
antagonist that is hardly ever shown in the movie. Tim Blake Nelson is a great actor, and
great
I
actor with a terrible prosthetic.
yeah, it looks bad. It looks bad. But at the same time, like, what were you gonna do with someone that looks like the leader? Because you can't make someone look like MODOK, because you'll just get made fun of. So how do you make the leader who looks almost as comical as MODOK in real life Captain America present day 2025? I guess that's what you do. You make him look like a partial zombie alligator killer croc type of character.
Dude, all they had to do was just raise it up a little bit, man.
He would have looked so.
Raise it up.
Then we're watching green cone heads in 2025. Like that would have
Better
looked
than
so dumb.
better than failed 3D print head.
Yeah, I'm not saying it looks good. I just don't know if I would have preferred a comic book accurate leader for Samuel Stearns. I think that's one of those things where it just doesn't play out on screen. At this point, we can't win
Yeah.
for any Marvel property that comes out or Star Wars or anything. The fandom cannot win if they stick true to comics or if they decide to veer off path. That's the problem with the movies that we're reviewing today, is because it's so divisive of what looks good on screen compared to staying true to the source material. The main antagonist, Samuel Stearns, I think we both have our feelings on that. So are you completely off on his look? Like, this look isn't working for me?
I didn't care that much. I'm just like, okay. I like that they hid him in the shadows a lot. That you'd think that if that happened to you, you would be more reclusive in that manner. So I'm okay with that.
Agreed. What about Sam? Speaking of looks, what about Sam's Captain America suit from Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
I
and then going
was
into his blue one?
so I was so happy that he didn't have the fat neck suit from from Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I came in, I'm like, the only thing I want from this movie is for him not to have the gambit neck that he had at the right at the end. Like, come on, Wakanda, you could do better. You could do better. So I dug the suit. I like the white suit that they started with. I liked, and the blue one is just as good, right? I for some reason like, I'm always going to be Cap purist, right? Like over your right shoulder, but I like the Winter Soldier Cap suit too. I think it's like sleepery with the silver and the lines. So I dug that it kind of matched that too. Like he went from his Captain America suit to his Winter Soldier suit all in the same movie.
Yeah,
Um, and it was funny to see him have like kind of a Batman-ish like cabinet setup for it.
a layer. He had a layer. Captain
Yeah,
America has a
yeah,
layer.
yeah. It wasn't like full on, Japanese samurai. It was more like the closet store came in and put in some sliding cabinets for him. But it was at least cool that it had like a place and like a full on situation. Though he just threw it in a hockey bag and jumped in the car. But yeah, I thought that was something that definitely got me good there. What about you?
His,
How do
his
you feel about the suit?
I thought the suit looked. I had no problem with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier suit, but other than the fact that, like, yeah, the white is a telltale sign of like, hey, bad guys, shoot me, I'm here. But that was, it still looked good. It was very comic
Mhm.
accurate, and I just like the implementation of how he was able to battle both in the air and on the land, because then it was like, oh, okay, cool. He is deserving. They did a very, very good job of making him physically imposing against others, but kept it realistic. He would, he'd get his ass beat a little bit, but at the same time, he had enough experience and just sheer will to overcome the bad guys. And that's what I liked about it. A lot of people think like, oh, he doesn't have the serum, blah blah blah. He doesn't need the serum because he has a Wakandan suit with vibranium with a lot of great perks to it, and he's still a physically capable fighter. So obviously he's been training and doing stuff with his shield to figure out the non-law abiding physics nature of throwing the shield. So
Oh, he's
yeah,
learned to
I'm
defy physics, all right.
I'm good, man. I'm good with that. And that's what I liked about it, because that was the only thing I wasn't sure of. Because there were times throughout his tenure as Falcon that he didn't really believe in himself, and we're not meant to believe in him as a character. Like in Avengers Age of Ultron, he was like, yeah, avenging is your thing, not mine. And so that was like a very interesting, callback of well, it wasn't a callback, but if you watch the movie, you'll remember that scene of like, oh, wait a second, yeah, Sam, he's not an Avenger, but then he starts whooping some ass in Civil War and Infinity War, so he's
Mhm.
deserving of his mantle. But yeah, the suit was badass. I think the vibranium wings and everything. The fact that he also went almost Archangel X-Men style and was shooting the metal feathers out of his wings was pretty sweet. I don't know if that is in his Captain America suit or Falcon suit in later iterations. I never really got into him as much as a character, but I don't know. Did you get any Archangel
I
ties to
did from
that? Or
that. Yeah, for sure. And I was very borderline on the physical capabilities angle of Sam because if you look at Sam, he's like age-wise, he's got to be like mid-30s, almost 40, pushing there, right?
yeah,
Redeveloping here. And don't get me wrong, the Wakandan technology is going to help. I'm just like, man, how long does he sustain? He's got like another maybe decade as Cap on a
yeah.
good day. And I love that
Similar
he's
to
turning down the serum and all that, but it's just like, man, do we get one more Cap movie with Sam before they got to be like, yeah, no, Mackie, we're done here.
I like that he says, and the serum gets brought up a couple times in this movie.
Hmm.
And then, at the final fight with him and Red Hulk, he's like, fuck Bucky, he's wrong, man. I should have took the serum. Like, that's hilarious.
Well,
It's
this the fact that the serum exists but nobody else has taken it. That's the part that I'm just like, that's kind of bullshit. But I dug that he did get his ass kicked a lot. He broke a lot of ribs, so I want to know how they fixed all those ribs that quick.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I
And
didn't
he was
quite
just used to
understand.
getting stabbed as well. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I get stabbed a lot. It's a Captain America thing. We get stabbed.
It's like, Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, yeah, I've been stabbed before. It's awesome. But yeah, so the realistic thing of him being able to kick people's asses, but also him still getting his ass kicked. One of those characters was Sidewinder, who almost got him on the jump. That was very Nick Fury in Captain America Winter Soldier, where he gets just hijacked by Sidewinder, Giancarlo Esposito. That was cool because now he's going to show his resilience in just, no wings, no shields, nothing. How is he going to fare in a ambush? What did you think of Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder? And you wouldn't know he was Sidewinder unless they called him Sidewinder. Uh,
Yeah.
Thoughts on him as a
I loved
cameo?
Giancarlo. I love Giancarlo in the movie. I want to take a minute before I talk about the one-on-one truck scene, which I loved, and go back to the first Giancarlo scene where they're like in the I don't know if it's a chapel or a room or whatever in that house, and then they bring in the unsizably large guy that's fighting Sam. while he gets away. What was up with the and this could be a reshoots thing that they just had to leave in. What was up with the I want to steal your star thing and the knife that cut the vibranium suit? Was that
Oh, yeah.
supposed to be adamantium and they just didn't call it out?
I don't know. That's a very good call if that would be the case. I don't think it was adamantium, but I think Sam's suit is vibranium, but just not all of it. So
Okay.
there's fabric part there, I guess. Yeah,
I
that's the
mean, the
only
guy
thing I
was
can
like,
think.
I just want to add your star to my collection. And I'm just like, are we supposed to know you? Excuse me? Have we met?
Yeah, the star commander. Like
Yeah, the
it's like it should have.
star collector, stargazer. There we go.
Yeah, there
There
you
we go.
go.
But getting back to your initial question, right? The one-on-one scene where he goes and blows up the the
GMC truck.
yeah, that was great. I'm like, why is Captain America driving a pimped out pickup? Oh, no more. It's cool. He gets his Hummer soon. Which I loved that he was driving a Hummer, that all that was in the trunk was this shield. It's like,
Yeah,
how big is the trunk on that GMC Hummer? Just big enough for a Captain America shield. Just big enough. Like it just fit.
right.
24 inches. Let's go. So I was all over that scene. Love that they were fighting it out. Love that Sam was still using guile to make like battery acid gas and fighting him out. The weird part about that was that Giancarlo Esposito was talking like the leader with percentages. There was a 60% chance that you would get out of that truck, and there was a 18% chance I was going to hit you in the stomach with an axe. I'm just like, huh?
Well, it's because the leader was telling him what the odds and percentages were.
But he
That's all
didn't
the
know
leader
who the
does.
leader was.
He does. That's
The
the one
leader
who
was the
hired him,
okay.
right? Are we unveiling like an inconsistency here? I thought that he did know who the leader was, and maybe not. Maybe that's just a oopsie daisy
I
for
thought that's
writing.
why they talked individually, right? Because Giancarlo didn't know who the buyer was.
But well,
But the
he
buyer was the US was yeah,
it was Stearns
yeah.
controlling the government essentially. But
Yes.
so I think, and I'm not trying to point out a big flaw in it, but I think it's just meant to be he didn't see who he was talking to,
Mhm.
but the leader gave him, oh, you've 86% chance, whatever. I think that's kind of just what it was. It's just one of those pieces of dialogue to where it's like, well, the guy told me you'd say that, just like the whole Civil War battle at the airport where Spider-Man's
Yeah.
saying like, Mr. Stark told me you'd say that. So it's like, yeah, okay. Well, that's just
Not
easy
as cool
writing right
not
there.
coming from Tom Holland, I guess. But I thought the
There's
action scene was great. I loved the action in this movie in general. If I were to talk about cinematography, we talked about some of the inconsistencies in sound and the reshoots, but the action scenes were dope.
They were solid. I will say that being an action junkie and liking the fluidity of scenes and everything and trying to hide and protect the actors' faces and appearances so that way it doesn't look like they're not doing the stunts. There was a few times where I'm just like, they could have done a little bit more work here. It just seems like a little too TV quality to me, for some of the whether it's the CGI on their faces or
Mhm.
hiding the stuntman's face with different hair or whatever. I know that's very tough to do, and I'm not saying that I can do anything remotely even close to being acceptable. But you have so much money, you have so much tools at your disposal. You should be able to hide a little bit of that stuff better.
I don't disagree. But it didn't stick out for me. You are the much more picky action one of the two of us.
Fights were still good.
Hmm.
I'd like to see my hero, in this case, whether it's Anthony Mackie or Danny Ramirez, try like just is that his name? Or did I totally butcher his name?
Yeah, no, Danny
Danny
Ramirez.
Ramirez. Danny Ramirez. Okay. I'd like to see them in the fighting as much as I can because it makes it more believable to me as an audience member.
Hmm.
Same thing with Shira Haas as Ruth Bat-Seraph is they did a pretty good job of keeping her fairly in shot of everything, but they did exactly what they needed to by kind of cutting away and just letting her do her thing, or the stunt woman's thing to or stunt man's thing, depending on who it was. So.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
yeah, it is what it is, and I'm not trying to nitpick it. And by any means, it's not a nitpick. It's just me as a fan of Marvel, me as a fan of action movies. I could notice a few things, and I'm just like, I just wish that wasn't there. I wish this was just a little bit different.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Um,
What about like the music and everything else? Like anything that's kind of putting you in the mood, or did the music play a factor?
the the only music that I was confused by was the choice of leader song to turn people into crazies. Um,
You know why that is, right?
why?
So there's a callback to the Incredible Hulk when Samuel Stearns is Mr. Blue and Bruce Banner is Mr. Green.
Okay, there you go.
So there's a small callback and tie-in
Issue
to
resolved then. There you go.
yeah. He's
There you
Mr.
go.
Blue. He's always been Mr. Blue.
Well,
So when you have a song and the title, then there you go.
then the music really ties previous movies together for me, Dan. I think that the themes really come together in a way that really, resonates for all of us long time, like back since the Hulk Marvel fans.
Back in 2008,
Oh,
like that
jeez.
ties everything full circle, ties
Just
everything
full
else
circle
together.
all the way around. Yeah, I mean the music for me, I mean it is what it is. Like there's nothing, it wasn't James Gunn, but it didn't get in the way for me. I mean, was there something that got to you about the music?
It wasn't so much that it got to me. I thought that they did a very good job of that type of music for trying to be like the Winter Soldier. So it's like a little bit more of like that espionage type music, mystery music.
Yeah.
And they did it a few spots when like Harrison Ford was talking like, is he full of shit? Is he a good guy? Is he changing? Like, is he just another fucking politician? So I was like, ooh, I like this. But there wasn't enough of the music to be like, oh, this is like Han and Leia's theme. This is Luke's theme. That it
Yeah.
wasn't, or this is Cap's theme. There was no theme for Captain America. And so Henry Jackman, who did the previous music and the other Captain America movies, I wish that there was a theme, whether it was the same as Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I would have been down with that. My son, who watched the Falcon and the Winter Soldier with me, would always want to listen to the end credits because he liked the
Mhm.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier music. I wish there was like a Riggs and Murtaugh theme right here. Like, I like my heroes having something distinguishable for when they enter a scene. It's an added element to music, and they do it in Star Wars, they do it in Marvel, and they do it for John McClane and Die Hard and stuff like that, or Riggs and Murtaugh in Lethal Weapon. It's something that I thoroughly enjoy, and I believe it enhances the story, and I was just missing it on this one.
Okay. That's fair. That's
Yeah.
totally fair. And I hear you. I it didn't bother me though. And for me, music can like dump a movie, but it's rare. It can elevate it, which is where I normally notice it. So, um that's fair. You mentioned Harrison Ford, and I don't think we've really dug into that switcheroo and how they just basically gymmed him into this movie. And when I say gymmed him, I think you know the episode of The Office that I'm talking about, where basically they just changed every possible image of the previous actor to Harrison Ford, even in the pictures on his desk, and just were like, no, he was always here. What are you talking about? He's been the guy the whole time. Look, he had a mustache in this. Worst mustache in comic book movie history. It was there.
What can you do? William Hurt did a really great job as Ross. And I don't know if a lot of people pick up like in Black Widow, and I don't know if anyone knew that he was sick. But there was a line of dialogue in Black Widow, and she said something to the effect of like, what is that? Is this your second triple bypass or something like that? Something to the effect that he
Uh-huh.
had like a bum ticker. And I'm wondering, I can't remember what William Hurt died of, RIP, but I always enjoyed him as Thunderbolt Ross. And uh, surprisingly, I liked him better than Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott, I thought, was like a really good General Ross in the first Hulk, but uh, William Hurt was solid, in my opinion.
Hmm.
When you transition over to Harrison Ford, well, what do you do? You know, like you can't be super picky about that, but I would have liked to know a little bit more as to why he was dying. And I wish there would have been like a few callback scenes of Natasha saying that to Thunderbolt Ross on the cell phone. You know, like that would have
Yeah.
tied it together very nicely. And that's an easy fix. You know, it's an easy fix of like, oh yeah, they were alluding to the fact that he was looking sick and everything. There's actually a Marvel theory on some of the social media sites out there that was stating, but before people knew that William Hurt was sick, was that like, oh yeah, they're intentionally making him look more sick because they're going to transform him into the Red Hulk. It could be like a full circle moment, but unfortunately, we lost William Hurt. So uh, Harrison Ford picks up the pieces, and I think he does it well. I think he is Harrison Ford as a president. I think that's
I
pretty
love
consistent.
Harrison. I love Harrison Ford as a president. So I'm all in on this, and he's very get off my plane in this movie. So I'm in it. Um, but I just thought it was interesting that they didn't go, Don Cheadle and just like, oh no, this was the same guy the whole time. They like fully changed the pictures from the other, like full on Jim
Well,
swapped it, and I
yeah,
just thought it was funny. I just thought it was funny that they
those.
retconned even some of the scenes from the old Hulk movie. They like pasted Harrison Ford with a mustache in him. I'm just like, wow, that's we're really going there.
What did you think about Liv Tyler's shoehorning in into this movie?
What do you mean? You knew
Like, do
she?
you did she though? And did it feel to you that as Thunderbolt Ross is like, oh, I miss Betty. I wish she knew that I changed. I felt like, huh, here's shoehorn. Here's your part of the movie to fit in Liv Tyler on this.
I think that Betty thing is so comic book though. The the superficial mental game that's in a thought bubble on a page to me. Like that is so very comic book. I enjoyed it. You know what bugged me though is the cherry blossoms because they were everywhere. They were in
It lined up.
Japan. They were in DC. They were everywhere. When he went to Japan, they're walking through a like garden and there's cherry blossoms and I'm like, is that a what?
No problem with
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
and I was thinking like, oh, this is 100 days after the presidency. Like, yeah, it's about time that those are coming out. So
Oh yeah,
no
no, and that's
issues.
beautiful in DC. I love that. I've walked through that. It's awesome.
Do you think that Betsy Ross is completely fine? Just like, yeah, well, instead of taking a walk or like, or even going for a walk in the cherry blossoms, like, is she forgiving her dad after that many years?
I
I don't know.
So I've
I,
been watching a different Harrison Ford show, Shrinking. Or is it what is that what it is? Yeah,
I don't know.
Shrinking on Apple Plus. And I feel like there's levels to parental forgiveness. And she's just opening up to the first one and just having dialogue and conversation and letting down a barrier. That
I
doesn't mean that
suppose.
they're gonna be best friends and skip through the cherry blossoms, but he's making an effort and she's making an effort. He's taking accountability for his actions, and he went to this prison where obviously he could break out at any moment.
I like the fact that he's taking accountability. I
Yeah,
know he's a stubborn general and president, but at the same time, okay, at least he realizes that like, oh, I totally fucked up here because not only did I ruin all the cherry blossoms, but yeah, apparently I'm poisoned as fuck and I'm gonna turn into this Red Hulk. I'm surprised they didn't even say Red Hulk. Like I thought that was like a missed opportunity of, like, oh my God, it's like in any comic book movie or any comic book, anytime a character comes in, whether you know him or not, they always have to state like, oh my gosh, it's the Red Hulk. It's like go back to
yeah.
issue 27, like that's so funny to me.
I did like the CGI in this movie versus the OG Hulk movie. So better on the Hulk.
Dude, the Hulk looked good. This might be
Yeah.
the best looking Hulk, just overall. And because he looks so much like Harrison Ford, that's another thing that was like super impressive to me. I did find it a little strange. Harrison Ford's acting transforming into the Hulk is kind of laughable to me.
I don't care. He's like 80 and he's done everything. And if you watch the interview that he gave on that, she's like, where do you get the inspiration to do this? And he just goes, money. I'm like, that's great. That is such an I don't give a fuck about your opinion answer. And just like they pay us to not give a shit and just do a thing.
I think he did a great job acting, trying to make sure that he boosted up Mackie and in his scenes and his other co-stars in every scene. I
Oh,
don't know if you heard the interview with Mackie, and he was saying that that's what Harrison Ford kind of pulled him aside and say like, "Hey, kid, I'm here to make you look good, and I'm going to do that." It translates onto the screen for sure.
I'm in a Harrison Ford renaissance right now. Shrinking is so good and it's so different for Harrison Ford. I even went back and watched the newer Indiana Jones movie again and was like, this isn't as bad as I thought
It's
it
not.
was.
It's
It's
not that
not.
bad, but
It's not
it's
that
just
bad.
not. You want it to be more, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, but
that's
that's just expectation, right? But a lot of the things Harrison Ford is doing right now, he's just bringing so much to the group, I feel like. And I feel like he does elevate this movie just because when you have solid supporting characters, your lead characters can shine. How awesome must it have been to be Anthony Mackie and him be like, I'm not here to be the star kid. I'm just here to make you look good. You're gonna carry this. What kind of amazing ego boost is that? To be like Harrison Ford's here to support me? That's fucking crazy.
agreed. Agreed. When you go back to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, the reason why that movie works is because it truly is a star-studded ensemble
Oh
cast.
yeah.
You have Samuel L. Jackson, you have Scarlett Johansson, you have Robert Redford in there as well, and it's there's a great balance of all the different actors' screen time, even though it is a Cap movie. But someone that we haven't talked about enough in this movie is the new Falcon. So you've got Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres. What did you think of him? And did you like him in his capacity of the new Falcon, or were you expecting more, less? What do you got?
I don't mind him. Doesn't Martha me at all. I enjoy that Mackie's holding him back a little bit, kind of letting him earn his stripes and is is showing the same concern for showing I think more concern for him than maybe Cap showed for Mackie. Where it's just like, yeah, no, come on, dude. Let's just go fuck shit up. Like Mackie's like,
Here's
whoa, whoa.
here's my question to you.
Hmm.
Is Sam Wilson, Captain American Sam Wilson, holding him back? And is that a flaw in his mentorship compared to Steve Rogers showing 100% unconditional trust that Sam Wilson is going to do the right thing in battle?
No. And I'm going to tell you why. I think that Sam Wilson, at the time in his military career, is completely different than Danny Ramirez. Sam Wilson did his tours, did things at a very high level of spec ops, and was now in a mentally healthy place of understanding the full picture. Danny Ramirez is like a puppy running at it to have fun and not really understanding full implications and full like the whole thing. He's young. It's like the Dick Grayson Batman relationship as opposed to just the Cap and Falcon relationship. Like it's different to me. Sam Wilson as a character is already established as like an adult whereas Ramirez is not. So I'm okay with that level of mentorship and just trying to get him, you calm it down. It's like an Iron Man, Spider-Man in Civil War, as opposed to Falcon, like already know, okay, I'm do another black bag job. Like, let's just go.
So you bring up a good point though. So you were talking about how Sam Wilson's experience compared to Joaquin Torres's. I'm curious though. So I was making the comparison of Cap and Sam Wilson at that time, but the only person to witness some mentorship gone wrong is Sam Wilson because in Falcon the Winter Soldier, you see John Walker and Lamar, Battlestar.
Mhm.
He uh, Captain America John Walker completely trusted Lamar, and Lamar ends up getting killed. So you bring up a good point. I'm wondering if Sam sees that as a like, ooh, I can't put my complete trust in him like Cap did to me. That would be a bad thing. So maybe you're right. Maybe you're right on
That's a
that.
great call out too. That could be part of the thing that informs Sam's trepidation on letting him go full out because he doesn't want to be the reason somebody dies.
Yeah.
And he felt a lot of guilt when Homeboy got goosed because
Speaking
he
of
also,
guilt,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, he also was in the battle where Rhodey like lost his legs or use of his legs. Right?
So, some would say it's his fault. Some would say it's Vision's fault, but hey,
Mhm.
Captain
Um,
America also has some battle scars as well.
yeah. So I think that there's that. Where was Rhodey in this movie, by the way?
They can't figure out what to do with him because the writers for Secret Invasion fucked up his storyline.
Okay. I was just that just came to me as I brought it up. I'm like, wait a minute.
For
Rhodey
the
was
record,
so
that's why.
involved and he's just non-existent.
Someone that is involved is Isaiah Bradley. So great to see Carl Lumbly back as Isaiah Bradley, the almost Captain America 2.0 that was just buried and hidden away for years. That was kind of an interesting dynamic. I thought that was really cool where Sam is trying to train Joaquin, brings him to Isaiah, and they get a chance to kind of see the sparring back and forth. Here's that first glimpse of Sam Wilson, Captain America, of how capable he is as a fighter against a super soldier. And he's trying to get his protege to follow suit with everything. So that was kind of cool. What did you think about Isaiah's arc in this story? And did you like him as a sleeper agent for the plot driving
I just want him
device?
to put on a suit. Like not the suit that he wore. I want him with a like give that man a shield. Like that's where I'm at.
I think that really would be cool, and he's kind of like the guy in the chair for Sam. I think that would be fantastic.
Hmm.
And you bring him in as like, just like a veteran on an old basketball team. Like he's like, hey, we brought this guy in because he knows the ropes, he has the experience, and he can calm the temperaments down of the younger players. But Isaiah can't calm down his temperament because he's still a pissed off fucker that doesn't like people. And he makes it very, he doesn't even try to hide that. So that's something I did like about his character. At least I have to give him some applause for his role because his performance of showcasing Isaiah Bradley's fragileness and both in his mind and physical state, you almost feel really bad for the guy. Like, he's like a guy with dementia when after he shoots at the president, he's got dementia. And he's like, what happened? Like, what did I do? You feel bad for him because like, oh man, what did happen? Like, obviously it wasn't him that was doing this, but was it his secret soldier past that is just like all of a sudden reactivated? Is it like a Hydra type of thing where they were using code words, or is it the leader playing song about some references to being blue? What did you think about that? And overall, what do you think about Isaiah Bradley as a character going forward?
I thought the way that they integrated him was great. I was curious as to how the leader got to him when they had no access to him physically, unless he goes to the VA hospital or something, like, could be the case. But I was a big fan of him in there. I would like to see him used more. I don't know that they will. This was a great way to give him back his humanity, and he can always be like a support character. I think they give him the role of like what old man Cap would be, essentially, right? Like he's a great mentor, but also like keeps Sam honest to the fact that you're not Steve Rogers, so they're gonna fuck with you. Um, and that's very true, right? Like it's a thing, and it gives the character grounding in reality for the struggle that maybe we don't talk about is that, he's the Black Captain America, essentially. Um, by the way, another Harrison Ford thing, I loved his answer to that question. How do you think he does as the Black Captain America? And he stopped the interview and was like, no, let's get this straight. He's Captain America. There's nothing else there. There's no underlying. He's Captain America, and he does a great job. Um, I think that having Isaiah in there as balance for both Sam and for the fact that, you know, he's not the first Captain America of color, and he has to deal with disenfranchisement as well, is a character depth that we don't always get from a superhero movie. So I love seeing Isaiah there in that respect. But I just want him to punch somebody. Like that scene where he goes full on super soldier. I'm in my head, I'm like, how is Sam keeping up with him? He's going full like Steve in the 50s running through the street after Hydra on this. And he obviously still got it.
Yeah, I like the fact that he has a role in this and there's a purpose for him. But
Mhm.
uh, I would love, you mentioned before, like bring him back as maybe like old man Steve, because they do that in the comics where Steve Rogers starts to age because the super serum is taken away from him, but he still has all the experience, the wherewithal, the knowledge of everything from his battle tactics, and so he's a master tactician. I would love to see that for Isaiah Bradley. However, I don't think it would truly make sense because of the fact that he is so sour on America as a whole that the only person he'll trust is Sam.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he would be the best mentor for that like old man Steve Rogers type of mentorship. I want him to be like, oh, you know who you're talking to? That's Isaiah fucking Bradley, the guy
Mhm.
who going up against the Winter Soldier took his arm. That is the type of aura and respect. That's what I want to see. Not, yeah, he's kind of a salty old prick, but we let him hang around the Avengers Tower. Anything Martha you that was just like unforgivable.
Nothing really unforgivable. The cherry blossom thing bugged me that it was just the same plant everywhere, and some of the reshoots and the editing, meh. But I thought the plot was solid. I loved the action in it, and I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't too much of other characters, but we got them. Even the Liv Tyler thing, I'm like, she's here. Yay.
Were you one of the people that were just a little bit upset that Seth Rollins, WWE superstar, was edited out of this movie?
No, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. He was supposed to be one of the people in the Serpent Society. So
Hmm.
Sidewinder and his little group of cronies was supposed to be a lot bigger of the plot, but because of reshoots, because of whatever type of screenings that they held, they ended taking him out of the movie. And a lot of WWE fans out there wanted to see Seth Rollins, and I'm sure Seth Rollins wanted to be in a Captain America movie, but he came out, I think it was like a month ago, stating that he was not in it. He didn't want anyone to go see the movie thinking that he would be in it, so he just put it out there that he's not in it. Which to
Yeah,
me, it makes it seem like kind of sour grapes. I feel like.
whatever. He could have been John Cena in this movie. We just didn't see him. Who knows?
But I got a question for you, Mark. When it comes to Captain America: Brave New World, can you do this all day?
So I came into this early this week worried about my answer to this question. IMDb having this at 6.1, Rotten Tomatoes having it at 51%. I was like, oh God, am I gonna hate a Captain America movie for the first time ever? And I went to see this opening weekend, but I went to like a 9:30 IMAX show, which was like, only the true nerds do that, like especially when there's a laser, like a regular projector show at a very reasonable time, so people don't pay the double for IMAX. And it, it was good, right? It was good. There were people that, were there to see it for a reason. There were people that stayed through the credits. This was a movie that had an after credit scene and tried to move the MCU plot forward. For once, we got a plot movement out of it. Like it might have been a
Did we?
little one. Yeah, no, we did. It resolved and added characters without like a huh, at least to me. It somehow integrated adamantium and the Eternals and acknowledged the Eternals for the first time that I can remember. So, with all that being said, it was a positive throwback, and I will watch this again. So, yes, I can do this all day. I feel by the sour grapes look on your face that you may have a different answer, but I'm going to hold back my judgment till I ask you the question when it comes to Captain America Brave New World. Dan, can you do this all day?
Good question. And you would think that I'd be more prepared to answer it on our podcast. I will say that I was excited about this because I'm just a Captain America fan. And I think Mackie is a great actor. I did have reservations. Like, are they going to be able to put a good enough cast around him to make all aspects of this movie shine? And I think that there were great performances, but I don't know if it gelled together as much as I would hoped. It's always good to see Harrison Ford. I thought that was one of the best looking Hulk CGI looks for the longest time. Maybe even since the first Avengers, because I thought, the Hulk looks pretty badass in the first Avengers. But you have a great looking Hulk, imposing, mean. I had very few problems with the CGI, so there's nothing, it wasn't anything like that I was trying to nitpick. But the the great performances, I will say, are going to be Carl Lumbly as Isaiah Bradley. You really, or at least I did. I really felt for him as a human being of like, I'm not going back to prison. Like I can't. They kept me in the can for 30 years and experimented on me. I can't go back. You feel for him because he was a victim for so many years. And then when he realizes that like I have to give up, otherwise they're just gonna kill me. The what kind of tore at my heartstrings was like, don't touch my suit. Like he was so concerned about his suit, which is like the only memory that he has of his
Mhm.
significant other and good things. It was heartbreaking for me to see that. So I was like, yeah, dude, Carl Lumbly's Isaiah Bradley, fantastic performance. Harrison Ford, I think it was a good performance. Nothing knock it out of the park, but I'm a Harrison Ford, at least semi above the average fan for Harrison Ford. I know he does great work. But the thing that really kind of keeps me from wanting to watch this again, because I walked out of the theater saying like, I don't know if I'll watch this again. I've seen it. I just don't know if there's enough for me to be really like, oh man, I want to watch it again because of this. The only reason I want to watch it again is because of that end fight scene. And that's like, you could, a few months from now, maybe even a few days from now, we could see like the whole fight on YouTube somewhere because someone just uploads it. So that's where it's like there's not a whole lot for me wanting to go back to it. And it's funny you say in the post credit scene that it's gonna drive the story forward. Like I don't think it does. I think it's the cheapest way for them to say, hey, we're going to be back. If you like us, we're not going to get too specific, but if you like us, we'll be back. If this makes a lot of money, there will be a whole lot of others that will be challenging the Earth. And I don't know, man. It didn't
Well, I
grab me like I wanted it to.
no, I thought that alluded to the multiverse thing
No.
and the
Well, yeah, it does. It does. But that's basically just keeping like, hey, things are gonna happen. You better be ready because things are gonna happen. I'm not gonna say what, I'm not gonna say who, but things will happen and people will happen.
bro. That's better than we've gotten in a few movies. That's all I'm saying. Like, did the Marvels move us forward? No. Did the Eternals move us forward?
This was the first post credit scene that I was just like, well, that was pointless. That's exactly what I thought. But
When's the last
Anthony
time we had a
Mackie,
good post-credit scene though?
I mean, not nothing in that bad a vein for me.
Hmm.
Everything else was fine. You know,
Hmm.
it's it may not have led anywhere, but it was a better post credit scene. Like this was just, I feel like, hey, we need to get Tim Blake Nelson some money because we told him that he'd be in the movie for X amount of minutes. Can we just shoot this? But hey, do me a favor. Don't mention Galactus. Don't mention multiverses. Don't mention anything else. But just say there's some dangers out there.
You're
Uh,
salty and I love it.
it's not great. The execution was not great. Am I a hater of the movie? No. No, I still like Anthony Mackie as Captain America, and I'll be looking forward to him returning in future movies and leading the Avengers. However, that post-credit scene was absolutely pointless. More pointless than a lot of those, even the Eternals end credit scene with what's his name, Pip, and who's Harry Styles in that movie? I can't remember.
I
Thanos' brother. But I was more excited about that than this credit scene because I knew, like, yeah, this doesn't do anything. This just is it's like a throwaway piece of dialogue. Say like, hey, get ready because we've got some new stuff coming up next month. Like, eh. So
hey, I was
unfortunately, I cannot do this all day just because it was not it wasn't underwhelming. It was a solid movie, but it's not on my list of I need to rewatch this. I need to watch it again. And the music wasn't there for me. And even though there were some great bright spots and cameos from
mm,
Sebastian Stan as Bucky, it's just not quite at that Captain America mark for me.
see this hit for me in so many ways. I really enjoyed the fact that there was a very different set of fight scenes as opposed to just punchy the whole time. Like the aeronautical one was so good. So yeah, no, agree to disagree, my friend.
Hey, but that's how it is in America. We are free to state our opinions, and we're going to continue to do so. But this is how we hope you celebrate your President's Day, is listening to us. And as a thank you, we just wanted to say, like, hey, you're doing a great job, America. Keep
Aren't
it up.
we? Eh, we'll see.
Until next time, this is Dan, the Part-Time Avenger. That is Mark, the Resident Jedi.
Like, subscribe, hit us up on all the socials at I Can Do This All Day podcast across the world. And don't forget, happy President's Day in this brave new world.
Go get yourself a mattress.